Oh, brainiacs! Look at y'all! What's up, everybody? Global, worldwide brains. Welcome to the Matrix Minds, my friends. What's up? I hope everybody's doing well. It is Friday, it is interview day, and I have been waiting to get a hold of this man for quite some time. Yeah, man, Mr. Preston Dennett. He's all over the place. He's like the planet here. He's global, just like y'all. Brains global. I love you guys, man. This dude is to be the guy that you want to speak with. If it's UFOs, this is the fella you guys want to talk to right here. Just telling you, giving you a heads up. This man is the man you want to talk to because he has got. I could not tell you how many books. I want to say 40 books plus. This guy is very laid back. He's been on Coast to Coast AM. He has been on his own podcast, on his own blog, everywhere. We all have been trying to get a hold of him. Mr. Preston Dennett. He's an investigator of UFOs and paranormal. He's been doing this since 1986, when he discovered that his own family, friends, and co-workers are having drastic and dramatic unexplained encounters. Since then, he's been interviewed by hundreds. He's interviewed hundreds of witnesses, dove in deep and investigated worldwide encounters, both paranormal, ufology. He's part of MUFON. He's part of the MUFON network. This fella, I'm telling you, brains, he is a world of knowledge. Again, welcome to the Matrix Minds, my friend. This is the show that we question everything. When we come back on the other side of this, Mr. Preston Dennett. Crank it up, brainiacs. Don't go nowhere. Hang tight.
What do you say, brainiacs? You guys ready? It's time. It's showtime, brains. That's right. It's Matrix time. And it's go time. Welcome aboard, everybody. Let's go. Talk about ufology, conspiracy, controversy, and anything and everything that we can get in there tonight. Let's go. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Get up, right yet? Yeah. It's definitely your show. Your show, and we appreciate you for being here. Buckle up, everybody. Board.
Brains. Yeah, man. Welcome aboard the Brainiacs ride in the Matrix. I'm joined by Mr. Preston Dennett. Yeah! Everybody, welcome, Preston. Welcome to Matrix Minds, buddy. I am so glad to have you here. You are going to be amazing.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks, Matthew. It's an honor to be on the Matrix Minds.
Yeah, man. You're like your little book below you. You've not had an opportunity to really talk about it. The schoolyard UFO, the drive-in theater. Well, we're gonna get into that. I read your bio a little bit, but I want you to tell everybody who you are. I know who you are, but tell everybody who is Preston. Like, how did you tell them your story? How you got involved in all of this UFO stuff? Because this is a unique story.
Yeah, well, I don't even really know who I am, but I'll do my best.
I don't know why. Okay.
Honestly, I'm not even sure why I'm so obsessed with this UFOs and stuff. Because I came in as a skeptic. Honest to God, I did not believe in any of this stuff. I was pretty young, though. I was 21 years old, 1986, when I heard a report on the news. I've told this story many times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to me because I was watching TV with the whole family. I'm 5 of 6 kids, so there's quite a few of us. And the news comes on, and there's this news story about a pilot who saw a UFO over Alaska. And they named his name Kenju Tarochi. I'll never forget it. November 17, 1986. And they start joking about this pilot and how crazy he is and how he thought he saw this UFO. And I'm thinking, yeah, I think he's probably crazy.
Press is like, woohoo!
I mean, I seriously just did not believe in this stuff. But I did remember that my older brother, Mark, I have 3 older brothers. He's like the second, number 2. Mark said he'd seen a UFO. He came running in one evening. I was probably 14, 15. He's like, I saw a UFO. And I just like, shut up. Don't want to hear it. Go away. You did not see a UFO because they're not real. But after hearing this news report, I said, okay, Mark, what did you see? And he kind of smiles and looks at me like, are you sure you want to hear this? I'm like, no, really, tell me. And he described this really incredible sighting, actually. He was driving down Reseda Boulevard in LA. That's, not far from where we lived. And he was with his 2 friends, Phil and Greg, who I knew. And this was that night, and he saw what he thought was a helicopter. They all saw it. It was about treetop level, a few hundred feet away, and it was clear to them it wasn't a helicopter. It was silent, it was hovering in place. It had little colored lights around it, your classic flying saucer, a dome on top.
Mm-hmm.
This thing starts playing with them. It would dart forward and wait for them to catch up to it, and they get real close to it and it would dart forward again. And they started chasing this thing down the boulevard for a good 15 minutes, passing other cars, chasing it, and it would always wait for them, and then get real close to it, and then off it will go. And finally, it just shot like 20 miles down to the other side of the valley there, the San Fernando Valley. And that's what he described. I'm like, are you serious, Mark? He's like, listen, call Phil, call Greg. I'll give you their number right now. And he did. And I called them. And they're like, oh my God, no one ever believes me. And described the same thing he saw. So that's how it all kind of started to roll out.
So did you kind of start believing a little bit at that point?
A little bit.
How old were you whenever this happened?
I was, let's see, 21. Yeah.
In your 20s. Okay.
Yeah, early 20s. And kind of a young 21, if you know what I mean. I wasn't really that experienced in things. I was a mama's boy. I stayed at home.
Right.
But, I started thinking about this. I'm like, well, he's not lying. Because, this is my brother. I know him really well. Don't think he's misperceiving. I don't think he's hallucinating. There was 3 of them.
Right.
So I started asking other people in the family. And my brother Jamie thought I was nuts. Steven's like, shut up. UFOs aren't real.
Right. So he got your back. He's like, this. He's like, you all are woo woo. Right. Well.
And my dad was starting to get upset. He hated the subject. My sisters both believed in it, never had seen anything, but Mark's wife had.
Right.
And she told me an amazing story that when she was like 10, 12 years old, as a little girl, she had these things coming into her bedroom. I'm like, what do you mean things? It took her a while to give me this story, by the way. It wasn't like she just sat down and laid it out. I had to really convince her. And she described seeing these short blue beings, which would come in and sort of she asked them, "What are you doing here?" And they said, "We're taking your memories. We're recording your memories." And it wasn't scary for her. She says they came at least 20 times over a period of about 2 or 3 weeks. She never saw them arrive, never saw them leave.
This was your sister, Preston?
My brother's wife, my sister-in-law.
Your brother's wife. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, she ended up, becoming really working closely with me as an artist, sitting down with experiencers. But then I found out my other brother, Stephen, his wife had a UFO sighting, had friends with her. I ended up calling them. It was just anomalous lights, but still, it's really cool. Okay. And she saw gray aliens in front of Stagg Street Elementary School.
Holy cow.
Of all places, right on the street in Van Nuys, California. Walking outside her home late at night with her dog. Thought they were kids. Walking by them thinking, what are these two kids doing out late at night? And walked right up to them because they looked strange. She's like, "Oh my God, they're bald. Geez, their heads are big. And why are they wearing jumpsuits?" And she walks right up to them, right? And they're floating slightly off the ground. They turn and pivot and look right at her. And she says, "Preston, it was like being woken up when you're already awake because they were not human."
Oh my God. See, there is a fella. I interviewed him last year. He's passed away. His wife Kathy contacted me. His name was Dennis Sance. He is the guy that seen the New York. Was it New York? Is it New York? Upper State New York. The close. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's upstate New York.
Yeah, the Hudson Valley Wave.
That's it. He was the guy. He was the fella that what was it? Believe it or not, contacted and he, because Dennis was a county worker. Okay.
Oh, I think I saw it.
That's it. Dennis Sance, great guy. I love him. Again, Kathy, his wife, called me and told me that they lost Dennis this past year. So Dennis passed away. I was gonna have him back on. Literally, I was gonna have him back on. He's the fellow. The man is literally on my schedule for this year.
Oh man,
I'm heartbroken. I'm serious because it's phenomenal to have people like, in I'm not saying high caliber, but he was a county worker. Okay, to me, I'm not a county worker, and neither are you, right?
No.
So, right, to have somebody of that clout that works for the county say, "Hey, man, this stuff is real." I remember seeing it, and I communicated with beings. How can you not believe it? He's written a book. I've got his book here. I mean, you know what I'm saying? These stories, though, Preston, these guys, you being an author, you probably get a lot. I know, even being a show host here, we get a lot of people that want to come in and share stories, but you got to you can tell who is and who isn't being real.
Yeah,
right?
You got to vet them.
You definitely vet them out, right? I mean, that's like the lady, Miss Dolly, that you just interviewed. You just talked to. I've got to get this total sweetheart. I've got to get her on a show. Gotta pick her brain, bro. Because these people, you just cannot make up their life experiences, Preston. Seriously.
Yeah, I told Dolly I was coming on the show, and she's like, "Ooh, you should mention me." I'm like, "Oh, don't worry, I will."
Oh, you know me, man. I'm got it covered. Yeah, she's got a really, really unique story. I'm not gonna say it. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about it. But her story, man, is a lot like the interaction with your brother's wife. Like, this is real. This is real, and this is major, major stuff. And this is only two people. on a planet with 8.7 billion people now.
Yeah, at
Think
least.
about it.
Now it's
about it.
8.8 since we've been talking.
Right? We've been busy the last 30 seconds. Preston, the drive-in thing, right? Your UFOs at the drive-in. What made you write that book?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. You know, I worked as a bookkeeper for years and years. That's where I got a lot of my witnesses. After I found out, you know, my family was having encounters, I asked friends. Then I start going to people at work. You know, there were 20, 30 people there. Lady whose desk was right next to mine. She had an encounter. In walks Dorothy. She's like, "Oh my God, one of these followed us home from the library. We had missing time." I'm like, "Dorothy, you were probably abducted. You know that, right?" She's like, "What?" But there was this lady there who was working. Her name was Claudia Blasios. She was a newer employee, came in at one point and found out I was a UFO researcher. She's like, "Ooh, I've got a story for you." I'm like, "Okay." And she says, "I was just a kid, and my family went to the drive-in theater in Paramount, at the Paramount Drive-In in California. Her mom and dad, her little sister, and Claudia. And they were watching the movie, and everything's fine. She's a little kid, so she's not really paying that close of attention to the movie. But suddenly she sees people running by, dropping their drinks and popcorn, and screaming and screeching out of the theater. And she's like, "What's going on, Mom, Dad?" And they're staring not at the movie, but to the right and above the screen, where there is this gigantic classic flying saucer, almost as wide as the screen itself. So, you know, that's got to be, what, 50, 100 feet. And she said it was shiny silver, like chrome, mostly silent, except for sort of a whooshing noise, a whirring noise. No lights or portholes that she could see. But she says it felt like it was watching them watch the movie. And basically cleared out the theater. And I'm like, wow, that's quite a story. It's funny because some years later, they didn't talk about it. They actually kind of completely forgot about it, which happens with some of these cases. That makes me wonder. But it was some years later that she's watching or listening to a radio show with her mom in the kitchen, and some guy comes on the radio. It was a call-in show. He says, "Oh, it's at the Paramount Drive-In Theater. This was 1970 something, and I was watching this movie, and the saucer came. It was to the right of the screen."
Right.
Claudia turns to her mom and says, "Oh my God, Mom, we were there, weren't we?" And her mom says, "Yeah, we were. I remember that." And Claudia's like, "Well, why didn't we talk about it?" I completely forgot about that. And her mom's like, "God, you know, I forgot about it too. I don't know." So they got confirmation, and that was my first introduction to it, but I thought it was unique. And I honestly thought this was a one-off, and there's no other cases out there like this. And boy, was I wrong. It was, I don't know how many years later, but it was a few. And I'm writing UFOs over Colorado, another book.
Right.
And some lady describes seeing this UFO over the Mile High Theater in Denver. I'm like, huh, this is kind of like Claudia described. Came right down, right next to the screen. And then I found another. And a third one, all in Colorado, right over a short period of time. I'm like, I'm going to look into this, because I've gotten access to a lot of UFO books. You might see behind me some of them. But UFO magazines, I subscribe to the UFO news clipping service. You know, there's many UFO databases online. So I started digging deep, and there weren't many in books, I can tell you, but I started to find them in the newspapers. And I found, get this, over 100 of them.
Wow. Okay.
Over 100. Couldn't believe it. It's always the same. These things come down right over the darn theater, right above the screen, real close. Usually stay for a good long time, 5 minutes, 10, a half an hour, sometimes the duration of the entire movie.
What the hell do they want, Preston? Whenever you get encounter, like stories like that, what the hell? What do they want? What would they possibly want?
Right? Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, are they watching the movie? No, I don't think so. Because I was looking at the movies and they were usually sort of above the screen or next to it, so they're clearly not watching the movie.
Right.
Looking at the movies, I'm like, well, one's The Exorcist, one's the Simpsons movie, it's Indiana Jones, it's Outlaw Josie Wales.
Right.
So I'm like, okay.
Maybe
And after,
the reactions. Maybe it's the reactions of us toward the experience of the television. I don't know.
yeah, I wondered about that too, because they do seem to really study humans and especially our emotions.
Right.
But ultimately, I kind of came to the conclusion that they were doing a publicity stunt.
They were. Check us out, bro. Right. But here, Preston. The thing is when something like that happens, wouldn't the authorities, right? What do the authorities say to the locals? Because I haven't read that book. I haven't read your book. But my curiosity is like, what would the local Akron Police Department say to the Akron residents? Or because something like that, dude, it would go. Why don't it go mainstream like the Vegas lights?
Yeah, well, it did to a certain extent. A lot of these did get in the newspaper. You go to the police, they'll tell you, or whoever, often they'll say, "Oh, you saw advertising balloons, you saw a blimp, you saw Venus." They go to the old standbys,
Right.
which is ridiculous because we got 100, 200, 400 people watching these things.
Right.
And the case that really kind of clinched it for me was one in Mentor, Ohio, where these object came down and it stayed there. They ended up turning off the movie because no one's watching it. They're watching the Better Show, which is going on at the time.
Right.
And this darn thing releases 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 smaller discs. This was a large craft which turned up on its end, released 10 discs, which started flying around, darting back and forth, up, down, sideways, whirling around the theater.
Wow. I don't know that, and I'm 35 miles south of Mentor.
Aha, really?
Right. Yeah. It's like just right there.
Well, I'm telling you, this is a thing, and I think that's why they're doing it. They're showing off because they'll stop, they'll turn on their side, they'll flash lights. People will flash their headlights at them, and they'll flash back. They'll start darting around. Like, you want to watch a show? We'll give you a show.
Wow.
And yeah, that Mentor case was the one that clinched it for me because I started looking at them. I'm like, oh my God, this is what they're doing. They're announcing their presence. They're getting us used to them for, I think, one day open official contact. Honestly, I think that's what's going on here.
I cannot wait until they land on the White House lawn. I'm just telling you, Preston, I will fly to you. I don't fly, but I will get to you. I will buy you a beer when they show up on the White House lawn. Because I already believe that Washington, D.C. is one big illusion. Okay? When finally they show up on the White House lawn and say, "We're here, what are you going to do about it?" Because you got to remember.
They did. They already tried, just so you know.
I don't know nothing about that. When was this?
1952. They came right down over the White House.
Eisenhower. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah, well, in 1954 they landed at Edwards with Eisenhower, and they had a diplomatic meeting, which sounds crazy, but it's pretty well verified. But yeah, it was during that era, 1952 July. They came down over the White House, was caught on radar, and they probably would have landed if we gave them a warmer reception. We didn't. That's not like humans.
No.
We shoot first, ask questions later, which is basically what happened. We scrambled jets after them. It was a big to-do. It caused the biggest press conference on UFOs up to that time, and General Samford called them radar echoes and an inversion layer and reflections. That's what people were seeing. We now know that's a lie.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so they came close. I'm just saying, they came close to landing on the White House lawn.
Speaking of that, I talked to Laura Eisenhower quite a bit, and
right.
we're talking her great grandfather Ike, right? Whenever there was quote unquote, I'm just using air quotes, video footage of President Eisenhower in the limo with the tall gray or whatever, was that legit? Is that real?
I don't know if that particular photo is real, but I can tell you for sure they have photographic evidence of this. It was filmed. This is coming from multiple sources.
Filmed, yeah, right. The photo,
Yeah, this is how disinformation works. They put out something that's obviously phony, but in its essence is real. So it really muddies the waters. There was absolutely a meeting in February of 1954 at Edwards Air Force Base. UFOs landed. Eisenhower was there. Leaders in business and politics and religion and the UFO field and science, they were all there. And it was a big deal. And leaks started coming out immediately. And to this day, there's still information coming out on that one incident. Crazy.
With all of it, with what you just said about it damn near landing on the White House lawn in 57, whatnot. Why such a high caliber of classification? Whenever, like you just said, you've got an enormous stack of books, and you're only one author. There's hundreds, thousands of other authors, and thousands of other encounters. Why such secrecy whenever it's there? Like we just talked about, they're literally showing themselves in the middle of RoboCop at a drive-in theater. Why the secrecy?
From the UFOs or from the government?
I'm talking from the government standpoint. Why? Yeah. I mean, it's like, why? If they're...
I wish I knew. I think they're badly bungling it. Very much mishandling this. I think there's a number of reasons. One is that this is kind of the policy they adopted from the very beginning. These things came down in large numbers in 1947, the summer of 1947. And, the Roswell crash, Kenneth Arnold, there was a huge super wave which swept across the US and the world. And it was clear, if you look at the documents and the reporting from that, our military was in an absolute panic, had no idea who these guys were. It was clear it wasn't Russia or China or anything from the very beginning. I mean, they knew before this. They had craft well before Roswell that they had collected. There was the one that they got during the Battle of LA, another in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, 1942, I think it was, or 43. Roswell was in 47. So by that time, there was already a cover-up in place. That's the policy they adopted. And ultimately, I think it came down initially out of just pure paranoia and fear. And once they started getting the actual craft, the technology, the bodies, and started to reverse engineer it, they realized that this is a lot of power that they have their hands on. So ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to, is greed, power, money. We have an oil economy. If they were to release free energy, which I think they have, it's going to destroy the whole oil industry.
Sure.
They release the healing technology, which they've gotten from ETs. Well, that's not going to be, Big Pharma is not going to be happy about that.
No,
billion-dollar industry.
I definitely want to talk to you about that as well, because you've written about that, right? The healing aspect of the extraterrestrial encounter. The free energy thing. I mean, here on this show, we've talked about that hand over fist that over and over and over, that we have the technology. The technology is there, but again, it's just the outright greedy that they will not allow the public to have it. Tesla, think about this, Preston. Tesla's
Exactly.
I mean, we've had the technology. I mean, we are not stupid and stupid people. Tesla was a brilliant man. Einstein, a brilliant man. So we've got the minds in the system to help push along the consciousness evolvement as well as technology on our own accord, literally on our own accord. But the greed, like you said, is just absolutely mind-boggling to the point of when are we going to finally, or when are they? Because I believe in what's called the Galactic Federation. Okay, that's I believe in that. At what point are they, the outsiders yet watchers, going to say we've had enough of this government tyranny? Let your people go. Let them grow. What do you think about that? When do you think that they're going to step in and say enough is enough? The consciousness is going to grow one way or the other. Whether you're in the way, which we will remove you, or two, you can cooperate. What do you think about that, Preston?
Yeah, well, it's clear to me the ETs are out there in very large numbers, are perfectly aware of everything that's going on. Encounters are far more widespread than people realize. 1 in 40, 1 in 50 people have had onboard encounters. I don't have evidence of a galactic federation per se, but it's clear that they are cooperating with each other and are intervening to a certain degree. I mean, I wrote a book, UFO Healings, which you mentioned, the healing power of UFOs, and they are coming down and healing people. They're pulling them on board in large numbers. They're teaching them. They're announcing their presence. But at the same time, they are not openly, officially landing in a way that would absolutely make no question they are here. They've given us the absolute incontrovertible evidence over and over and over and over again. So they have given us evidence, but I think what's going on here is that they respect our autonomy. They need us to solve our own problems. You know, we are destroying our planet. We are warring with each other. We've got unequal distribution of wealth. We are hiring world leaders who don't have our best interest in mind. It's up to us to fix the situation, not them. They can intervene only to a degree. This is what I'm hearing directly from contactees. In fact, if you talk to Dolly Safran in our book Symmetry, we go into quite a bit of detail about this, because this is a central question that a lot of people ask. And I wonder about it, because I would much rather obey our alien overlords. I think they'd do a much better job.
Right.
I don't think they have our own governments I'm talking about. I don't think they have our best interests in mind. And I'm not even pointing towards the fact that they've been lying about UFOs and this subject forever. But if you look at any aspect of how governments treat their people, it's not good. They, irradiating soldiers, feeding people hallucinogenics, giving them syphilis and sterilizing. I mean, I can go on. I don't want to go government bashing.
Right.
There are good people in government. There are. But there's a force, or whatever you want to call it, a segment, I guess is the word I'm looking for, of the secret government, if you will, alt government, the cabal, who don't have our best interests in mind. And this is the problem. I wish the ETs would just come and take them out. That would make things easier on us.
Me too, Preston.
But they're not doing that. And I can speculate why. I don't know for sure. Dolly's certainly asked the ETs about that, and other contactees as well. And they said, no, we can't do that. It's up to you to solve your own problems. So I think that's why. And this is why they're doing these really subtle, well, I don't even call it subtle, but sort of under the radar publicity stunts. There's another book I wrote, Schoolyard UFO Encounters.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard of the Rua, Zimbabwe case at Ariel Elementary School in 1994, where they landed next to the school and some 200 kids saw it. Well, that happened at Westall High School in 1966 in Melbourne, Australia. Happened in Florida in 1967 at Crestview Elementary School. Happened in Hillsdale College in Michigan in 1966. I started collecting these accounts. I found over 100. It's exactly like these drive-in theater encounters. Almost exactly. only real difference is it's occurring during the day. In 1/3 of the cases, they land or humanoids are seen. They're low-level, long-lasting, overt displays seen by large groups of people. And this is what the ETs are doing. They are announcing their presence to individually, to small groups, and sometimes to large groups. So I don't know if that answers your question really.
Well,
I think that's what's going on.
you know, again, it goes back to the cover up, okay, and then the healing. You know, I know we're bouncing a little bit, but man, you've again right about so many of the topics that we all are aware of, that there's major cover ups over everything. That's like the healing community, the spiritualistic community. If there is a way to cover it up and it be just, you know, discredited, they're gonna do it. You mentioned the cabal. This is I gotta go back to who was it? Eisenhower. I do believe it was Eisenhower. As well as Kennedy. All of these presidents that have like had to know of what's going on, they've tried to warn the people, right? They've tried to warn the people. And this, like, you know, the one where Eisenhower's like, you know, I do talk about the black budget of the military industrial complex. The black budget of the military industrial complex. Let's be aware of that, right? I mean, was he not going to storm Area 51 at one point?
I heard about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All the presidents have said very interesting, sort of veiled hints about the whole UFO phenomena.
Right.
I wish one of them just let it out. Just throw caution to the wind. Let's just get this done.
I agree, Preston. I completely agree with you. And the majority. This is where we're at, is because you and me, as well as probably the majority. I know everybody in the chat, this audience, will agree with you. Let the cat out of the bag. Let the cat out of the bag. Just let it have it. But we've also talked about here. Now, I know you can be on the same page, and you've got a very open mind. If full disclosure happened, okay, it would literally turn this globe upside down, man. We would have religious disputes. We would have political disputes. Shit would just be completely, utterly turned on its axis. Think about that.
Well, it is now. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. I think we can deal with it. Yeah, there's going to be some fundamentalist religious people and some diehard skeptics. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a hard time for a while, but we adapt. I'm ready. I think you're ready.
I am. I'm ready. That's it. Yeah, I mean, we're just woo, let it out, man.
Let the chips fall where they may. I'm done. I'm tired. No more cover-ups. It's ridiculous.
Well, 2017. I remember this exclusively. I was sat in my backyard. I was watching something. And something come across. I was watching some show, and it come across the Pentagon. Now, you might remember this date or not. I do. It was 2 days after my birthday, December 17th, 2017. The Pentagon has released. They have released video footage of our close encounter with this F-15 pilot. Wait a minute. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
The pilot is the whistleblower, and well, the Pentagon's like, oh shit, what do we do to cover this up? Then they come out and said, well, yes, we have been in contact with and it just swept it under the rug. But I do remember, Preston. I remember the day.
Yeah. Hey, it got on the news. People were talking.
Yes, sir.
It's trickling out. I remember I brought it up at work, because I work with people.
Mm-hmm.
Not really UFO guys.
They are?
Yeah. No, not.
Oh, they're not.
They believe it because, I worked with them, and I make sure that they know.
Right.
But, that should have been front page news. That should have turned everything around. And they barely heard of it. They were more interested in sports and celebrity scandals and, whatever's going on.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it because yeah, you're right. You're right. They don't. You know what? My neighbors, my I don't know if it's just my my vibrational frequency that I'm sticking out there or not, but I will tell you this: I have been blessed with my neighbors waking up at an astronomical level because they are. They're waking up to the political agenda. They're waking up to all of the. I bet you if I told my neighbor Jeff now at this point, Jeff, I just seen a UFO, and this is. I guarantee you, he would not discredit me. He would probably like, really. I mean, like I shared with you, I've driven tractor trailer for 28 years. I've seen some things, and I've seen some things I can't explain. But again, my neighbors were, whenever I first moved in here 8 years ago, were very closed-minded. So I don't know if it's me talking to them throughout the time and like trying to open them, like planting the seed, right? Planting the seed to just question things. Because I've been a one, that's the thing here at the show. I question everything, man, even the fabric of my reality. And I really, really encourage everybody in my world to do that very same thing, Preston. I don't know
if I could give anybody any advice, that would be it. Stop listening to the lying government. Question it. Question yourself. If you don't believe in UFOs, I dare you to ask everyone you know. Love and trust. You're gonna get a shock because I bet you dollars to donuts. You know someone who's having these encounters. So I absolutely agree with you. People are waking up. It's so different than how it used to be when I got in this field.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I would clear a room so fast if I brought this up.
Yeah, I know.
People rolled their eyes so hard you could hear it. But now, yeah, people are absolutely coming to me in much larger numbers. The debunkers are fading away because you don't have a leg to stand on.
Right.
There's so much evidence now. It's conclusive. It really is. It's out there for anyone to see. You cannot say UFOs aren't real because I can march out 100 landing trace cases, 300 healing cases, radar return cases, implant removal cases.
Mm-hmm.
How much evidence do you need? The photographs and films alone are absolutely enough, but there's mountains of evidence.
The discreditors. What do you go? I haven't really touched base with you on the healing portion of this. How can you discredit an extraterrestrial experience? Okay, when there is a healing case involved, I don't really know what I don't know of any. So you can share some with us on that specific avenue.
Yeah.
Give us a really good one, Preston, because you can't discredit that, right?
Right. I mean, I talked to a guy, Jim Schaefer from Canada, who was healed of cancer and was very forward with his doctors. Like, listen, I'm having encounters, and here's the scar on my body, and here's this bruise, and I've got eye irritation, and so he was always forward with his doctors, and had been diagnosed with a cancerous tumor and was going to have it removed when he had an experience with this glowing orb, which came in, entered his body actually. He wakes up the next morning and his tumor is gone, and he ended up sending me his medical records, which was awesome.
Well, okay, right.
But goes to the surgeon and tells them what happened, because they're looking at him like, oh my God, where's your tumor? It was protruding out of his neck. And he says, well, listen, my friends came. These guys came. And so they said, okay, well, we're going to proceed with the operation because it looks like you still have some necrotic tissue there. And we'll see if there's any cancer. And there wasn't. So this is the kind of case I'm talking about. A lot of these healings are very well verified. There was another case in Damon, Texas, involving 2 police officers, good witnesses. I mean, one guy was a supervisor for like 50 people. He was the head of his department. And they're driving along, Deputy McCoy and Deputy Good, and come upon this UFO. It sends down a purple beam of light, strikes one of them on the arm. He can feel the beam. It's warm and tingling. He just happened to have been bit by his son's baby pet alligator, which left a wound on his finger. It was all bandaged up. It was swollen, painful. But this beam hits him. They drive off in fear, unfortunately. But they pull over into this diner and they're talking about what they'd seen. And he pulls off his bandage, and the cut was gone, or the wound, absolutely gone. It's very well verified. It's appeared in several books. You can go online and listen to their testimony. It's a well verified case, and there are a lot of them. I can tell you most major researchers, almost without exception really, have these cases. The big three, John Mack, David Jacobs, and Bud Hopkins, all have them. So does Edith Fiore and Brad Steiger and Tim Beckley and Yvonne Smith and Barbara Lamb and Timothy Good and Philip Mantle, Michael Hesseman. I mean, you want me to go on? I can.
Right.
They all have them. They're just not getting any attention because the media likes a lurid, scary, ET, experimented on me story, and that's not what's happening. They're not here to take over. It's ridiculous. They've been here for millennia.
Right.
They're very advanced. I don't have any evidence that they're hostile, torturing people, hurting them, or anything like that. It can be very scary, I'll grant that.
The malevolence, they want to push the malevolence of the visitation. You know that. That's what they do. That's what they do. They want to discredit the healing. They want to discredit that. They want to discredit the good contact, the consciousness involvement, things like that. It blows my mind that there are people in the government that's trying to get it out there that there are good extraterrestrial cases, as well as there are also it's I guess a double-edged sword, Preston. It's a double-edged sword.
I don't know. I mean, there are bad people on Earth, certainly.
Sure, be it.
These are somewhat hostile. There's no doubt about that. So I think probably there are hostile species out there in the universe. I don't think they're traveling to our planet. I really don't. I've interviewed hundreds of people, and I'm not getting that. People are taken on board, and yes, it can scare the living daylights out of someone. And they will conclude that this is not good for me, that this is evil. They don't like it. But generally, when someone has that experience, they're going to have it again. When someone's taken on board, this is usually a repetitive thing. And at some point, they wake up. Because the first thing the ETs will tell you, and you can see this for your own, don't believe me. Look at the cases objectively. Throw away your belief system, what you think you know, and actually look at the facts. And you will see that the first thing the ETs will say is, have no fear. Don't be afraid. Everything's fine. You're fine. We're not going to hurt you. No harm will come to you. And they pull you on board and examine you, and this is when they heal you. This is where people go south. This is when they lose their minds and panic, fight, go crazy. But if they don't, they don't have missing time. They are not paralyzed. They're given freedom of movement. They're talked to. They're given messages. And it's almost always the same. The messages from the ETs, and I don't care if you're talking about grays or mantids or human-looking or short blue beings or tall whites or what have you, the message is warning against nuclear proliferation. It's warning against pollution, our warlike ways, greed and corruption. It's telling us to wake up our own psychic abilities. It is all along these sort of lines. They are very concerned about how we're treating each other and the environment. They're concerned about our planet, what's coming at us. And then they'll take you down to the engine room, show you how the craft works. They'll take you up to the control room, sit you in the chair, and teach you how to fly the craft. This is what happened with Dolly Saffron. That became her thing. I've got a lot of cases like that, by the way. Dolly really explained it in a lot of detail. But I'm telling you, if you look objectively at what goes on when someone's taken on board, just go ahead, try and prove that this is a malevolent experience, because I don't think you can do it. I honestly don't. There are MILABs, military abductions,
Mm-hmm.
which do put forth a negative scenario. And yes, people are suffering from really negative experiences, but it's not the ETs. By and large, I think UFOs are absolutely 100% safe to interact with. ETs are not here to hurt you. Why
Right.
would they? It makes zero sense for them to come down to little old Earth. You think they have better things to do than to come down and beat someone up? Show me a case where that's happened. I don't think
I
you can.
I agree with you. I've seen video footage of, and this is not classified. This is all unclassified material. Of, I'd mentioned to you off air, the Roswell crash, the encounter. From what I understand, the ship went from Roswell, New Mexico, to Area 51 over to Groom Lake, and from there ended up right 240 miles south of where I'm at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Okay, I mean I am literally in the hive of all kinds of stuff. Like I told you, Wright-Patterson is 200 and something miles south of me. Lockheed Skunk Works is not even 5 miles east of me. You just mentioned earlier the Mentor, Ohio encounter, 30 miles north of me. I personally am in a hotbed of reality. Okay?
Ohio's got a lot going on. I know it.
No, the malevolence, I agree with you, is made up scenario. Okay? By some pretty mainstream people. I'm not going to call her out or them out, but I will tell you, doing documentaries of, or just doing video footage documentaries of the disembodiment of cows, the
Government.
bingo, woo woo, ding ding ding. But there again, there are some really big names that you and I know, okay, that are tied into creating stuff like that. Do you realize that?
I do, yeah. Mutilations come up all the time. Like, how can you say ETs are not here to hurt us when they're mutilating cows? And I'm like, well, listen, why don't you look at the research of Gabe Valdez, who's a leading mutilation researcher.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, he's big in this field. He was one of the first to look into it. And there are others. And he said, it's government doing this. This is what Dolly said. She asked the ETs because she's never seen any evidence of that. It's our own government basically creating a terror campaign. And people are having real negative experiences, but they're not ETs. There's another series of incidents that people sometimes point to. Like, what about the Colares, Brazil incidents where these UFOs are beaming down and killing people? Like, yeah, I know about that one. This is the false flag pre-op, I think, that they're going to be putting forth at some point and trying to convince people that ETs are here to hurt us. The Colares, Brazil was a horrid series of events where people did die, but the researcher who looked into that came up to the similar conclusion that this could very possibly be government. So I think that's something people need to keep in mind. That when you're looking at these things and people are reporting negative experiences, if you're, yourself are having negative experiences, first thing I would tell you is, are they truly negative, or are you really just freaking out and having a lot of fear with it? And that would be my first question. And how close are you to a military base? Is there military in your family? How sure are you that you're not being MILABed? Because this is real. It's a horrible situation. I'm not going to say that everyone who has a UFO encounter likes it, because that's not true. I've interviewed a lot of people. I don't edit their stories. And if they feel this was a negative experience for them, I'm certainly going to present their feelings. This is their experience. It's not my job to interpret it. It's my job to present the facts as I know them, to help people primarily. That's my first role whenever anyone contacts me. And I talk to a lot of people and I help them through perhaps the trauma that they're experiencing. Because yeah, it is often scary. Dolly talks about this when people are being taken on board, because she's on board when people are being taken on board. She's a fully conscious contactee, and
That
she says as
is
often as not, people freak out.
right. That is the most significant story that I've ever ran into is watching and listening to your guys' interview, and her absolutely just straight up saying, and as well as even having you here validate, this lady consciously, me talking, and hang on, Preston, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'm gonna jump on this UFO and experience it, come back, and just like pick. Okay, sorry, I had to take care of something. Do you see what I'm saying? That does not happen, Preston. So for her to be able to share that cognitive frontal lobe aware, wasn't dreaming, wasn't on drugs, that's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Yeah, it does happen to, I've interviewed other people. One of my first interviews was with a lady who won't go public.
Mm-hmm.
At some point got rid of her fear, became fully conscious. There was another guy in Utah. Every now and then I run into people like this, but it's pretty rare. Most do have missing time and still have fear, but at some point they start to wake up, and this is when their memories start coming back. And the ETs don't want to scare people, and this is why people have missing time, because they're so darn traumatized that they will agree together. It's a mutual decision. I think the human mind has a tendency to block out trauma anyway. So when this happens, this is like Raymond Moody is a really interesting case. He was a sergeant in the Army who had a UFO land next to him. They pulled him on board. He had this long interactive encounter with human-looking ETs, was very much benevolent. They showed him the engine room, like the same pattern you see in case after case after case. And he puts back down and doesn't remember anything. And it came back like 3 weeks later, and that's when he remembered that the ET told him, "We're going to block this out for a few weeks because this could cause trauma if you remember this too quickly." And he ended up going public and talking to researchers like Jim Lorenzen and James Harder, and they warned him, like, if you go public, the military is going to ship you off to Siberia or somewhere. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Never heard from him again. Still wonder where he is to this day. Sergeant James Moody. I want to find out. Or Raymond Moody. No,
Raymond.
James. Sergeant Moody. Raymond Moody's the near-death guy. Sorry. Sergeant Charles Moody. That's it. Sergeant Charles Moody.
You think they killed him, Preston?
I hope not.
Or just shut him up. Just.
They will threaten you. I mean, people have died over this. There were people threatened all through the whole Roswell incident. You can hear their firsthand testimony about how our own government, your tax dollars at work,
right,
they come to you and said, "You will be bones in the desert if you say one single word about this." Yes, they threaten you, and I think people have lost their lives. There's been some research into UFO researchers and whistleblowers who've been knocked off. There does seem to be sort of a high incidence of that. So there is some danger to that.
I definitely agree with you, especially when it comes to the whistleblower status. I have not interviewed David Wilcock, but I can tell you I have followed him for quite some time throughout the years, and I'm not a fan of Carrie Cassidy. I'm not. But I will tell you that I remember the day that Carrie Cassidy had to go on, and it was immediately, no questions asked. David, come on, her show, just like you'd be like you, right? Just Matt, you got a large audience. We got a large audience. I've got to say this now, right now. Because speaking publicly to a large audience is pretty much safety. That's a safety net. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happened to David Wilcock. Is one of his contactees is a whistleblower contacted him, is like, dude, they straight up called him and said, they threatened to throw him in a wood chipper. I mean, he was crying. They scared the shit out of David. And I remember this exclusively. Again, I'm not discrediting Carrie. I'm not discrediting David. But what going along with your theory here and what we're trying to say is, yeah, this specific topic, ufology, is a very, very touchy, like aluminum foil on a filling. You gotta be really, really careful what you say when you say it and to whom you say it. Because, yeah, man, I don't doubt you would be knocked off.
Yeah, there was just a news story about some Area 51 researcher who got on the news because his home was raided. I looked it up. He's a legit researcher. This really happened. Look at Bob Lazar. They dragged him through the mud. Pretty sure he's telling the truth. I've interviewed a few whistleblowers myself, and every single one of them was like really old. One guy was in the hospital, chronic disease, about to pass. He's like, I really want to talk to someone. Oh. I'm going to be leaving this planet shortly, and I want my story out. And he gave it to me, and I was really honored.
Right.
To be able to do that. It's an amazing story. So
was he a veteran?
He was a contractor for the military. He was a civilian, actually, but he ended up doing a job at Edwards Air Force Base. And when he said that, I'm like, oof. Because I wrote this book, UFOs Over California, and Edwards was on my radar from the beginning. This was an early book I wrote. And Edwards, if you study it, you will see they're neck deep in this. They've had sightings since 1947, changed the way the military handled and viewed the phenomena. They've had landings there, right on the runway. Astronaut Gordon Cooper was there when a UFO landed on the darn runway. He saw the film. There was the Eisenhower incident. There's several incidents where they were caught on radar flying over the base. And I mean, I'm going on, but the point is that they're neck deep involved in this. And this guy tells me he's working at Edwards. I'm like, what happened? And long story short, he was a subcontractor doing a job there, walking with his employer across the tarmac by a warehouse, and he hears this thrumming noise. Turns and looks. There's a huge open window, and he can see a flying saucer inside. It's floating. It's got some cables attached to it, but this little silver craft about the size of a sports car, no markings on it. And he turns to his employer and says, what the heck is that? His employer puts his finger over his lips, says, shut up. He's like, no, really. He says, shut up. You weren't supposed to see that. Don't ever ask me ever again. And he tried to get him to talk, and he wouldn't. And it was a year or two later, the same employer calls him and says, I really need you on a job. It's an emergency. And the guy I interviewed says, screw you. I'm not giving you anything until you tell me what we saw. They got into a pissing contest, he said. And over a couple of beers, his employer said, okay, I'll tell you, but you got to promise me you will never leak a word about this. This is serious stuff. And he kept that secret until he nearly was passing away. But what his employer said was that what he saw was not a UFO. It was not an extraterrestrial spacecraft, but it was reverse engineered from alien technology. This was a craft that could levitate. It used this sort of counter-rotating magnetic field, which would be exerted on one side of the craft and allow it to travel in the desired direction. So I don't have a whole lot of details about it, but it's one of several sort of whistleblower accounts that I've had the privilege to, I think, investigate and write about.
I think I was continuing with what you'd said. I'm going to touch on your story a little bit more. I was told by one of my Wright Patterson insiders, okay, that if you see, just shout out to everybody and anybody, if you see something flying that looks like pretty much if it looks man-made, like if it's got wires, or if it's got like you can see windows with a window frame, or you can see any kind of a seal, any kind of a rivets, things like things like that are absolutely reverse engineered, man-made.
Yep.
Now again, Tommy said that, speaking of that, if it is absolutely crystal perfection, not one flaw in it, and it looks as round as, shiny as mercury type, with not a flaw, it isn't from here, Matt. I'm going, never really thought of it like that.
Yeah,
I never.
I totally agree. I mean, listen to Travis Walton describe what he saw. He said it was the most spectacular, exquisite, beautiful thing he's ever seen. Yeah, you got to talk to Dolly. she will talk about this.
I got her. She's actually she's up in the chat. I see her up here. She come floating up in the chat. By the way, we are at an hour, Preston. So if you want to start taking phone calls for you. For anybody that would like to talk to you, ask you questions, pick your brain, the phone lines are open. I've got them open. How to call the show, it's in the description of the show. So yeah, man. I mean, yeah, the switchboard is up. So anytime anybody wants to call you and participate with you, they're free to do that, no doubt.
Very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of what people are seeing now, which is, especially now, these days, most of what people are seeing is our own. It really is. The TR-3B, our government has craft that can very closely mimic UFOs. And there are certain ways you can tell, but according to Dolly, and I believe her, the ETs have bugged out. Our magnetic field is failing. It's collapsing. It's at 40% or some, collapsed 40%. You can verify this yourself. There's science to back this up. The ETs have bugged out. They're not here right now. It's too dangerous to fly. So what people are seeing now is perhaps an ET drone. It's not occupied, but mostly government craft, like the TR-3B and a whole host of others that are very convincing. And I think the way you can tell is if it's hostile, if it's shooting at you, you can bet it's government. 'Cause that's what the buzz is coming down the line. That there's going to be a false flag, real hostile play, sort of trying to paint these guys, the ETs, as enemies, and they're not.
Right.
They're not. It's a sticky situation. There's so much going on right now behind the scenes.
I agree with you. If you are showing if they're showing a malevolence, the evil, then it's not from here. It's not from here. It's like you mentioned Bob Lazar, and the discredit to that man is unbelievable. He never worked here. We don't have nothing to do with him. The discredit. But whenever Bob Lazar was talking about J-Rod, I had to talk to you offline about J-Rod. The interaction that Bob Lazar had with J-Rod was nothing more than a very telepathic, loving, sharing. Of course, he was scared. He was scared to death. But again, the interaction between Robert Lazar and J-Rod was nothing more than a formal love bond, because J-Rod knew that Bob was not going to harm him. What aggravates and upsets me the most is watching, because you can pretty much feel it. Your gut intuition can see what is real interviews with ET and what is not. I've seen some really, as well as you probably have too. You've seen some really good footage, okay, of extraterrestrial encounters and interviews. I'll just say interviews. And you're like, I cannot believe the way they're treating this being. You know what I'm saying? Even if it was fake, if it was a real encounter a real interview, or even if it was a fake encounter. I cannot believe the way we treat these beings. It bothers me, Preston. No damn wonder they don't want to be here.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really a shame because I think a lot of the stuff we see out there is faked. But again, its essence is true. Like the alien autopsy, that's pretty clearly faked. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty much conclusively been debunked. However, we know that that has happened and that in its absolute essence, it's 100% true. And it's happened many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. It's so darn messy.
It
These
is.
guys are really tricky in how they put out misinformation and disinformation. Do not trust our governments. That's clear to me. That they're disclosing now. They're talking about sightings. Really? What about the landings? Not going to talk about that at all. Not going to talk about Ben Hill or Roswell or the Malmstrom incident. They completely shined that one right off. Malmstrom? Oh, we know nothing about it. Really? Aren't you the head of the Defense Department? You don't know about Malmstrom? Or UFOs shut down our missiles in 1967? Really? You don't know about that?
Oh yeah.
They know.
The story of them flying over the nuclear silos and like literally just going, blip, shutting them down. Our military going in panic mode. Oh my God! Right? That clearly shows. Okay, it shows their meaning for being here. I've learned over the years to read some crop circles, right? And I've learned how if showing a depiction of the crop circle, always start with try to find the center point of the crop circle, because that is showing the central sun, or vice versa, it's showing either the Earth or it's showing the central sun of our solar system. I've not really seen anything. A friend of mine pointed out, excuse me, pointed out that I was shown this crop circle clearly was made where it showed, I don't know if you've heard this one, where it showed the Earth being destroyed in a crop circle, that the ETs showed it clearly. I'm going, what? Yeah, this was supposedly on the internet of the ETs showing our future if we don't change our ways. It was a really supposedly a really detailed crop circle. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I wasn't even shown the crop circle. That's why I'm asking you. Have you ever seen this? Where they showed the depiction of the Earth being destroyed if we don't change our ways.
Yeah, I don't know specifically about that one. I'm not a crop circle researcher. I've followed it. I know that there are a bunch of books where people are decoding them, and some have been clearly decoded. I mean, you can see some that clearly show Fibonacci sequence and other stuff. It's a real thing. It's not Doug and Dave doing it. I know that there's a scientist out there, Dr. Levengood, I think is his name, who proved how to tell when they're legit and when they're not. You can tell the nodes of the wheat stalks or the corn or the whatever it is are expanded and blown up and exposed to some sort of energy, whereas the fake ones are just crunched down and snapped and they're messier. It's pretty easy to tell if you're a crop circle researcher which ones are legit, and some are far too complex. And yeah, they're clearly meaningful. They clearly have meaning to them. You can see that in a glance.
At what, let me ask you as an author, okay, at what degree does the ufology go into the paranormal investigation type? Because how do you tell the difference?
Yeah, well, I think you're making a huge mistake if you ignore the paranormal aspects of this whole field, because there is a connection. I mean, this became apparent to me really early on. The people I was interviewing who were having, especially the ones who were having really big, intense contact, had a wide variety of paranormal experiences. And it became clear to me that there is a connection between a lot of these phenomena because contactees, as a general rule, are profoundly psychic. And this turns out to be one of the main ET missions, goals, agendas, call it what you will, to wake people up to their own psychic abilities. So we'll see contactees have the abilities of healing or mediumship. I wrote a series of books, not from here, outlining a bunch of this. Just recently in the latest volume 4, I did a chapter on contactees who levitate, physically levitate, because that happened to Stephen Greer, that happened to Whitley Strieber, that happened to a case from Jacques Vallée, from Bud Hopkins. It happened to Dolly Safran, by the way. I've brought this up on several other podcasts, and one guy's like, oh my God, I'm a contactee. That happened to me. I never tell anyone this. Ray Hernandez, he's pretty prominent in this field. He's like, oh my God, I have a case of that too. This is my point. There is a connection here. Contactees are often mediums. They do astral travel. They have past life recall, old psychic reading. There is absolutely a connection here. And I think that's what it is. People are having their psychic abilities raised, magnified, enhanced, woken up. And I think it's more than that, actually, because there's a lot going on here. I mean, we haven't talked about Bigfoot, but I got dragged into the whole Bigfoot field because some guy had a UFO land in his backyard. Next day, Bigfoot showed up. And like, kidding. And that was my first UFO Bigfoot case, but it wouldn't be my last. And there's a connection there, too, that doesn't get a lot of attention. But I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I have my theories.
Okay.
Necessarily, Bigfoot is an alien or an ET, but I think they are intelligent. I think they're probably super psychic and are what we would think of as a UFO contactee.
Bigfoot the ET. I do believe that they are sentient, very sentient, and very, very high vibrational entity per se. I mean, it's a being. It's obviously a being. I've talked to a couple people from out in the Colorado, out Montana area that have clearly seen Sasquatch, Bigfoot, right? I've never interviewed a Bigfoot contactee, but I have talked to some that clearly say they're definitely special. They're not anything that would harm you. So again, going back to the government trying to scare the hell out of the people and put the fear of God in them about that being, they've done it. They've done it over the years, Preston.
Yeah, well, Bigfoot is real. I know that. I've researched my own cases. I ended up writing about it. And if you don't believe in Bigfoot, well, do your homework. You're going to be surprised. The evidence is conclusive. It's in pretty much every state, every country, all over the world. Goes by different names. Accounts are in the tens of thousands, if not far beyond that, hundreds of thousands. And reach back hundreds of years. They really do. The evidence is absolutely conclusive. It's not just eyewitness testimony. There's lots of footprint evidence, hair samples, audio recordings, lots of films recordings. Some really good footage, actually. If you do your research, you'll be really impressed, I think. It's amazing. It's another whole topic of research that has yet to go fully mainstream, but it's getting there.
I see Angela Stats in the chat says that she's come in contact with two of them.
Yeah, I had my own Bigfoot encounter once. I did. I was drawn into it because a lady was having encounters. And she's like, it's outside my house. It's coming like nightly. Not nightly, but often enough. I ended up interviewing her. Her son saw it, her roommate, the neighbors were complaining. They could hear it screaming at night. She said it stunk bad. It would come around her house and you could smell this darn thing.
What?
I went over there and I saw it went into the tree, the son said, her son, and broke a branch. I saw the branch. It was pretty heavy duty. I mean, she had a lot to say about it. But she says, it's still coming around, and I know where it's living. If you want to come up, and I can show you where I think it's hanging out. And long story short, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And we went out there. This is in Acton in Southern California. And this was like the mid 1990s. I went up there in 95, or about 97. I'd have to look it up exactly. I did write it down. But we went out there, drove, I think it was my car. We took down this long dirt road into the LA National Forest, which her house was bordering on. And the LA National Forest, although it's next to LA, has a lot of wilderness area in it and a long history of Bigfoot encounters. I looked it up, lots of cases there. And we got out of the car, it was dusk. It was really starting to get dark. Stars were coming out, and there's the ravine. She's pointing, she's like, it lives there. This is where it's coming from. And she's in the back, she gets out of the car, she's opening the back door and pulling out the sound equipment, the camera equipment. We were going to film this thing, right? Capture it on sound or whatever. And I'm surveying the scene. I'm walking up around the front of the car and looking around. And I'm looking down in the ravine where she says it's coming from. And that's when this darn thing roared. And I tell you, it roared for a good 15 seconds. And she starts screaming. And I'm like, oh my God. Because it echoed in your chest. I've never heard anything like this.
Wow.
Oh, it's crazy. And roared again. And I'm running towards it because now I know I can pinpoint it, right? It's not that far away.
Right.
I tell you, this thing is like a couple 100 feet away. And she's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? We're leaving. She became absolutely hysterical.
Get your ass in the car, Preston. I can, right.
She was not happy with me.
Now, well, you're a journalist, man. You're just going to stand there and ask questions. Right, I get it. And that's funny.
I wanted to run towards that. Perhaps not too smart, but I couldn't help it. I wanted to be smart. I really did.
You guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to get an interview. That's funny.
He's like, we're leaving. Get in the car. So, yeah.
But that's Bigfoot. Okay, that's Bigfoot. The UFOs. Is that your main thing? UFOs? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you?
But I love the paranormal too. I mean, I wrote a book on out-of-body experiences because
we haven't even touched that yet.
Yeah.
We haven't even started to. Well, it's an hour and a half on the show. I'll only go for 2 hours, and if you want to go for 2 hours, I'll keep you here for 2. If not, we'll wrap up in an hour and a half, which is about 15 minutes. It's totally up to you.
Hey, I'm ready to talk all night long.
Oh God, okay. He's like, I ain't even got to call me. I'm ready to go. The out of body. No,
up to you.
In your adult life, though, Preston, have you had any major sightings in your adult life? Not 20s. I'm talking, 40, mid 40s. Yes, no?
Oh yeah, I've had a dozen major sightings, and I've seen a lot of anomalous lights, and I'm like, that's not good enough for me, especially early on. I'm like, that could have been a shooting star. This could have been a satellite. I mean, there was a time I'm driving through the canyon where there was a huge wave of sightings going on, Topanga Canyon, and this huge light appears right over the hill. I'm like, wow, look at that. That's not a plane, because you can see the little red and green lights, right? And this thing was just hovering there, this giant globe of light. And I'm staring at it, and then it blinks out. I'm like, damn, what was that? Not good enough for me. It was clearly something unusual. I think it was a UFO. I mean, technically it was. But it wasn't good enough for me to say, that's a craft,
Mm-hmm.
The very first one that was absolutely 100% unusual, and I know it because I had missing time.
Uh-oh.
I did. It was 1992, late July, and I'm leaving my brother Mark's house, Christy, his wife. We've been talking, of course, about UFOs. I was going crazy at that time. This was pretty early on. I was young. I will admit that. 27? 27? I'm pretty young. It was, think it was around that age. And I'm coming around the corner of just this tiny little street, really slow. It's a steep corner, right? A hairpin corner. And this darn bird, I thought, comes swooping down towards my car. And I'm like, that's not a bird. Must be maybe a firecracker. I think it's late July. That's what it is. But it comes down. It's this little ball. And it stops right in front of my windshield. It's like a golf ball or so. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's a reflection, even though it clearly isn't. And I stare at it, and it's not a reflection. And it goes back and forth, right in front of my windshield, stops again, moves forward, and darts off.
What?
Yep.
The hell was that?
Hey, that's what I'm saying. I'm gripping the
President.
It's so strange, Matthew. I completely forgot it. It left my head. I didn't turn around and go to Mark. I saw a UFO. You're not going to believe this. Because I've seen them since then.
Right.
I completely forgot for months. And that's when I realized, I'd had a missing time. Because I don't remember driving home. I don't remember anything else. But I started having them fast and furious after that. Man, oh man. Often lights and stuff. But I'll tell you one where it talked to me. Because that was so cool. I mean, I had been interviewing this lady who was having major encounters, and I always record my interviews because I wanted to get this right, get the facts right. I recorded her talking about how she had jumped up and there were ETs, grays around her bed, and she kicked one in the neck, snapped its neck, and down it went. This ended the contact. They went through the wall. This was just a small portion of her experiences. I mean, she was talking about hybrid babies, and I could go on with just her case. But I lean back in my chair. I'm in my third-story condo in Canoga Park, and I'm leaning back thinking, I don't know about this lady. She's since become a really good friend. I still know her. I knew she was telling the truth, but this was a lot to wrap my head around. I hadn't heard of anyone hitting a gray like that except Travis Walton.
Hitting like she hit it with the car?
No, she kicked it in the neck.
Oh, she kicked it in the neck. Okay.
Yeah, knocked its darn neck. She felt bad afterwards.
Okay.
She was scared, She later was healed of a cyst. She's had really benevolent encounters, but it took her a while to get there. So, long story short, I'm leaning back in my chair. Thinking, is this lady nuts or is she telling the truth? I know she's telling the truth, but how can this be true? And I got this really strong, absolutely 100% irresistible impulse to get out of my chair and go on the roof of my condo now. And without even thinking what I was doing, I grabbed my glasses because I'm slightly nearsighted. I use them to drive. I don't legally need them, but they help. And went onto the roof of my condo, which is off limits, by the way. And I'm a good boy. I don't go up there.
Right.
I get up there, but I don't. And here I am finding myself on the roof of the condo building, staring at the sky thinking, what am I doing up here? And boom, this UFO appears right across the street, a couple of 100 feet away, right over the palm trees, over this apartment building. And it's this huge orange-white sort of oval shape. And I'm guessing it's 10 feet across, maybe. Could be bigger. Not much. Maybe 20 feet. It was hard to tell because it was very fiery and bright. And it blasts me with this message. I mean, it just hit me on the head with this telepathic message. And I don't know if you've ever had anything like that happen, but I haven't.
Right.
That was, oh my God. Because it said to me, hi, we're Wendy's ETs. She's telling the truth.
Oh my God.
If you don't believe this, watch this, because she's telling the truth. And this wasn't in words. This was all just bam at once.
Telepathically, right.
Yeah. And I got the message, believe me, because there was no mistake in it. And it darts back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in absolutely unconventional movements, going lower and lower till it was actually below the level of the trees. And then it winks out. So they came to give me a personal message to let me know that Wendy was telling the truth.
That Wendy's
I called her up. I'm like, oh, you're not going to believe this. Oh, man.
I have interviewed quite a handful of people, and I can tell you, like I shared with you offline, I haven't had a real encounter, okay, in quite some time. I mean, I told Angela Stats here. I've told Ange. I've told Alexa Jameson. I've told these people with my contactees. I'm like, please. It's not that I don't believe. I believe. I've seen things my own self. Send them my way. I mean, hell, I would love to have another encounter, because the orb encounter I shared with you down in Texas, dude, that blew my mind. I mean, the orb. I mean, it was there. It was real. You know what I'm saying? And I can't. Everybody on the show knows about that specific that encounter with me, man. It put a shock to my system. If I didn't ever put it this way, Preston, if I was on the fence, okay, right? You know where I'm going with this. If I was on the fence prior to that, like I said, I had to stop, make sure that I was real, and hands down, man, that was the icebreaker right there. We ain't alone. We are not alone.
It not only knocks you off the fence, it destroys the fence itself.
Yeah. What spoon? There is no spoon.
Yeah, there's nothing like a personal encounter. And I've had a number over the years. It's really funny. More recently, I think it was like 2019, I was out in my backyard. This is in Reseda. And I really wanted to see one again because it'd been a while. And every now and then I'll get a sighting, and I'm staring up at the sky. I'm like, I know you guys are out there. Come on, just come down, come down. Shoot, I'm writing books about you. That's the least you could do. I'm your campaigner here.
Right.
Show me a sighting, and boom, this light appears right exactly where I'm looking, flashes real bright, and winks out. It was so cool. I mean, it was just a light, but I can tell you, having studied astronomy, that was no satellite. That was not a moon. That was not a helicopter. That wasn't a shooting star. No way. Appearing right where you're looking. Huge bright light. And no. It was a display. They're like, here we are. There you go. Shut up.
I know, right? That's like you saying, you know, you and me both. I was completely conscious. I remember seeing it. In fact, I told you I was driving down the road in an 18-wheeler whenever that had happened. Could you imagine being Dolly? Imagine being in that lady's shoes.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Sure well, I have. I tell you that. Yeah, that's got to be an honest to God thrill, living a life like that. Yeah.
That one right there, boy. That one right there would be the icebreaker of all icebreakers, Preston. Would it not be?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily an easy life to live either. I've talked to her over and over again about this. It was somewhat isolating for her early on, especially because you can't talk to people about this.
No, that's cray. You're beyond crazy. That's the thing. Right? They'll lock you up for that shit. Seriously.
They have. I've talked to people who have been actually locked up and put into the funny farm by their own family. Even though there were other witnesses, this lady in England had a major sighting, told her family, and they freaked out, took her baby away. She had just had a baby. They're like, you're not responsible enough to raise a child.
She's
like, listen, I was with somebody. Didn't matter.
That's sad, Preston. That's truly sad.
Yeah, she ended up moving out of England into Canada because they kept harassing her. She still has problems. And I interviewed her for a long time. She's not mental. She's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I worry about that. So when someone says, I don't want to go public, I'm like, I understand. most people now will let me use their real name when I interview them, but I totally respect people who want to remain anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, every time I interview someone, often the first things out of their mouth, especially if they've been digging on board, is, I've got a good job, got no history of mental illness, I don't do drugs. I don't
Right.
tell anybody this. There's some caveat of that, like, please just listen to me. No one will believe me. But you can tell when someone's telling the truth. They're very emotional. They're very guarded. There's little details that maybe a lot of people don't know about how the inside of the ships look, or how the ETs behave, or how they're dressed, or the instrumentation that they show, and little details like that. I'm like, ooh, here's another one.
Right.
Real.
I've never, whenever, remember me telling you, I told you, like I said, my fence breaker was the emotional connection. Whenever it took me a second, Preston, to realize what I was looking at. And like I said, looking over at it, I knew that it knew I was watching it. And I knew that it knew that was the icebreaker for me. So, okay. So the emotional connection, the connection was definitely there. And it needed to be, because all throughout my life, I totally believed, right? But yet again, going down the highway, looking at this orb, I'm going, it's a spirit, dude, spiritual.
Recording started.
Is a spiritual connection. Simple as that. Icebreaker, spiritual connection. That was that. Preston, let's take this phone call from area code 270. Is that cool? You all right with that?
Sure.
Hopefully they can hear you and you can hear them. I've got you on Zoom and the studio. So let's play this by ear and see how this works. Area code 270. Can you hear Preston?
Yes, I can hear everybody. This is Angela.
Hi, Ange. Preston, can you hear her?
I can.
Awesome. Glad to have you, Ange.
This has been a great show. I love Preston. I love you. I love everybody. I just, oh my gosh, there's so many things, because when it's all wrapped together, and I know you know my history, and I've talked to Preston before, but when so many things happen at the same time, and you literally can't fit it into any one box. Like, just throw this out there. I was driving down the highway in Southern California. I have an out-of-body experience while I'm driving on the freeway. Okay, and I'm doing 85, right? Just like everybody else. Next thing I know, I'm a lot bigger. My point of view is from above my car, okay? And with everything else I go through, I'm thinking, my God, they're going to put me on ship right now, and I'm driving down the freeway. You know what I'm saying? Jesus,
Right.
I was freaking out. So luckily, I had someone with me. My mother was in the passenger seat, and her boss was in the back seat. And I'm like, Mom? Because I'm communicating. I'm able to talk. So I hear my voice inside the car, even though I'm looking from above the car. I said, I'm above the car. She's like, oh, Jesus, what? And I said, pinch me or something. And she pinches me really hard, and that pulls me back in. But, I mean, things like that. I mean, it's, a lot of this stuff happens. People try so hard to go out of body and to meditate and do all these things. And I'm literally just popping out while I'm driving down the freeway. But then it was also my mom that I was with when we got picked up, car and all, going again through California. But it was from Northern California down to, like, I don't know, we were going to Oxnard or Bakersfield or something like that. But we were missing 80 miles. We had about 20 miles to the next town. I was almost out of gas, and I thought, okay, we're going to stop at that city and fill up. And we kept driving and driving and driving, and I kept looping how cute these farms were, because I kept looking at this farmhouse in the back of this field and going, I would love to live there. And 5 minutes later, I'm like, I would love to live there too. Eventually, I was like, that's the same farm. And that's when we sort of woke up. And we kept driving, and I'm thinking, where's the gas station? Where's the city? So finally, I just pull over off of the next exit, and it's literally nothing there. There's this barn and a Coke machine, and this guy's like, oh, this place is 60 miles north. We had passed it. There's no way we could have driven 80 miles with the gas that was in my car. It's impossible. We were missing like 2 hours, and the mileage was not on the vehicle. My mom had bought a brand new car, so she was keeping track of the mileage and the gas, so we had a log. It just, nothing added up. So, I don't know, I just thought, I mean, I can go in 1,000 different directions, and I can tell stories for hours. But,
that one definitely didn't add up, Ange. Yeah.
I'm just saying, sometimes all the things happen at once. The spiritual, the paranormal, the ET, the out-of-body, the abduction, it's all the same thing because it happens at the same time. But
I agree.
Just a fantastic show, and
Ange, I agree with Preston. I know you do too. The spirituality, the paranormal experience, it goes hand in hand, and cannot really be discredited with the ufology together. It's like they go hand in hand here. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about the consciousness and what perspective you're experiencing it from. Because wherever you can put your consciousness, you can experience. And if you're the one in control of that, or at least aware enough to recognize it while it's happening, to record the fact that you're watching this and you're aware that this is happening and it's not normal. If you can have that much awareness to record it personally as the participant and the viewer, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like then you can expand those experiences because you learn to realize when you're in them quicker, or in my case, the change of energy before they even start.
Preston, you want to talk about that?
Hey, I agree. Yeah, I've talked to other people, and I've certainly read about people who've had out-of-body experiences while driving. That does happen. I haven't had that experience. That's got to be disconcerting. But yeah, this stuff does come hand in hand. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the contact experience wakes people up to a huge degree. And we are much more than we realize. We have all these abilities. People call them supernatural or superhuman, but they're not. We have the ability to do remote viewing, astral travel, healing, levitation, clairvoyance, telepathy. Telepathy is the norm when it comes to ETs. And we can do that as well as the ETs can with practice. Absolutely, these are things we can all do.
I agree completely, and I think a lot of the merging that's happening, that the things that we experience out there are starting to happen here in the here and now, and a lot of it is along those lines of those types of things being very natural part of your sensing a normal day throughout your life. That those are all incorporated. It's happening more and more.
Yep, exactly. Near-death experiencers talk about that too, or astral travelers when you go on the other side. You can levitate. It's completely natural. Telekinesis is natural. Telepathy, all that stuff. Teleportation even. And people who get really good at the astral travel. Robert Monroe talked about this. Marilyn Hughes. If you study the literature on the astral projection, they have the same sort of effect. Near-death experiencers are profoundly spiritually transformed. Come back having all this stuff going on. So all of it's definitely connected.
Yeah, and I wonder, because I, from a very young age, have experienced so many things, and I think it's possible I might have had a near-death experience at birth, and that might have triggered it, so I wouldn't have known about that. But all of these years later, it would make sense that that's what happened. If that's what triggered it, I'm just saying. Some people are just wired the way they're wired, and it's whatever. But I think there was something there. And then when I was 28, I didn't have a near-death experience, but I walked out entirely. And then decided to come back even though I didn't want to. But that was like very similar to all of the things people describe when they're having those NDEs and OBEs, that they have the full access, to all knowledge, and they can see everything at once and go over, just all that stuff. It was just like that. But I wasn't dead, and I was not with somebody. I didn't have a guide. There was no review or anything like that. I was entirely by myself. But I was in that same expanded form, like when I popped out in the car. I was just bigger.
That one could have been bad, Ange.
Human.
The car
What?
experience, that one could have been really bad. You could have like killed your entire family.
I'm
Just saying.
saying. That's not okay. I don't tell people because they'll take my driver's license away. But,
Yeah, no,
my
that.
God. You know, I mean, I'm thinking, how can I be out of my body and still driving the car? I have to pull over. And my mom's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm not in here. You know, and it was just, yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah, no.
Completely nuts.
Well, people do
Anyway,
have the ability
I
to
can
buy
go on for
location.
ages, but let's let Preston tell his stories. I love it. Great show. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Well,
and very cool.
thank you, Ange. I'm serious. Thank you for being with us and calling and talking with me and Preston. Thank you for that. I thought that.
I love you guys. We'll see ya.
All right, babe. Take care. I didn't think it. I truly. Everybody's like just like tuned into the show. I mean, I'm thinking nobody's gonna call the switchboard. Preston's gonna be alone. It's just gonna be me and him chewing the fat. But that's okay. I mean, I like doing that too. There's a lot of what happens here whenever we get to talk in depthly, and people like, yeah, they don't call. They're just like listening to the stories.
Hey, that's awesome. Yeah.
The NDE, the near-death experiences, and the astral projection. I talk about that a lot. I teach after having my near-death experience, which really wasn't a near-death experience. It was a catatonic. You're going to just come back as something completely different experience. I didn't tell you this, I don't believe, but I experienced dimethyltryptamine about 14 years ago. In the hopes that I would overdose. Okay, I was going through some really traumatic stuff in my life, and whenever I'm literally making a long story short. But whenever I come back, Preston, I was not the same individual.
Yeah, we talked about this. Yeah.
Did we? I did not like. I didn't have any friends. I didn't like myself. I went through the process of learning all about me, right, through my NDE. And it's not even like that was an extraterrestrial experience. I don't know how to even describe where I was at. I have no words. I have no words to even. I've tried before to explain it. Okay, whether it was that astral projection, or was that literally my soul experiencing what the hell? Let me ask you that as a stand. Let me ask that one. What is the true? What is real? Dream, or astral projection, and visual, recollection of being in a vivid dream. What's the difference, Preston?
Not as much as you might think. Dreams are real. You're having a real experience when you dream. The world around you is real. When you astrally project, you're in a real environment, unless you're lucid dreaming, which is still a mental projection, but it's real to you. And it lasts longer sometimes than the actual physical world, which does degrade and change. I started investigating UFOs in 1986, and it was around that time that I started having out-of-body experiences, which I sought. I tried real hard to have them because I had read this book by Robert Monroe, who is very famous for his out-of-body travels. He's written 3 books. I highly recommend them. He taught me basically from his books how to do this. And I tell you, I got really good at it. It took me a couple of years to really learn how to do it. But it took me only a couple of months to have my first one. And after having my first one, I'm like, I'm doing that again. That was so cool. I basically just felt the vibrations that they talk about, popped out, went into the bathroom, saw that there was no one in the mirror. I was absolutely out of body. All it takes is one, and you know it. Mm-hmm. And I pulled right back in and did it again and started doing it regularly and got better and better and better at it till eventually I did, explore the house, explore the neighborhood, started going to other people's houses, and eventually to the other side. And I know exactly what you talk about when you say there's no words, because you can reach these higher levels which you cannot possibly describe with the language we have here. There's just no way. So absolutely, I think consciousness is what's truly real. But it's all about perception. Physical world, I think, is real. It exists without us, whether we're here or not. It's an absolute construct. But ultimately, it's energetic. It's made of light, just like the other side is. And on the other side, you can manipulate it to a certain degree. And there's consensus realities, but there are areas which you can create just by thinking. Thought rules, and you can do just about anything you can imagine. It is crazy the stuff you can do out of body. Learn about past lives, go to healing temples, meet enlightened masters. Oh God, meet all your deceased loved ones. It's an endless list of the things you can do.
I seen somebody in the chat here as it scrolled by me, and that was I thought I was crazy at 2 years old, Miss Cindy said. Let me, if anything, Miss Cindy, take from this show tonight. And I'm not putting words in Preston's mouth, but no matter what you have experienced, welcome to the Matrix Minds. Okay? Preston has wrote about endless stuff like what we're talking about. You're not crazy. Okay? So whether you're on the audio only side of things or even in the chat here, and you have experienced these near-death experiences, UFOs, what else, Preston? Paranormal. They're not crazy, are they? Please tell them.
No. It's really important. I hear this from contactees all the time, especially when they're trying to wake up to it. Dolly talks about this. She's like, oh gosh, as a young girl, she's like, am I nuts? What's going on here? Because there's not a support system for a lot of these people. That's one of the reasons why I do this research and why it's my first goal to help people out. Because no, if you're seeing UFOs, going out of body, having dreams that come true, remote viewing, this is all absolutely 100% real. In fact, a lot of this stuff has been proven in a laboratory setting. Human levitation, by the way, has been scientifically proven repeatedly, as has telepathy, as has telekinesis, as has out-of-body experiences. Robert Monroe proved it in a laboratory setting. So absolutely, no. I mean, there's far more going on than I think. We're just beginning to understand how truly powerful we are as human beings and the things we can do.
They're not crazy. They're not crazy. That's something that I get from a lot of people, and that in my inbox, Preston, a lot like you said earlier. Am I alone? Am I alone when seeing this? I know I'm not alone, but that they're scared. These people are scared to reach out and share their story because, like you said, I've got a good job. I don't want to lose my credibility with my spouse or my work, right? So they come to people like you or me, and they've got to be they've got to be anonymous. They've got to be okay. I get it, Preston. We definitely get it. We definitely get it. People like you, people like me, that try to provide the platform for them to bring their anonymity to the world, to share their story. That too makes them feel good, right? It makes them feel good, but yet somehow, truly, I've interviewed somebody like that, and they're like, "Damn, I wish I would have just said who I was after the fact," because now these people are like Dennis Stantz. He was one of them people. He didn't know what the hell to say whenever I'm talking the county worker, right, from New York, the Hudson Valley Lights. He didn't know what the hell to say. He's like, who do I tell this to? He wrote a book, right? I mean, again, great credibility with the county. What is he gonna do, right?
Yeah, I talked to a guy who was a Navy medic. He didn't tell anybody about his encounter with praying mantis ETs, where he was taken on board. And who's he going to tell? He did tell his wife, but no. It's funny, I did a show on my YouTube channel, a little presentation about people who've levitated following a UFO encounter, physically levitated. We mentioned that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy saw it in Europe, and he's like, please let me talk to you. I got to call you. I got to call you. I'm like, sure. And he called me. He's like, I can't believe, he's out of his mind. He's like, I have been searching for this information my whole life. Because he had a UFO encounter when he was a little boy. Following this, he experienced 30 or 40 episodes of spontaneous levitation in his home. And he
Oh my God!
because his dad was abusive, and it was not a good situation. And he had no one to share it with, and he didn't. He couldn't tell anybody. It was absolutely crazy. It drove him to the edge of insanity. But he knew it was 100% real because it happened over and over and over again after this incident. He's like, I am so glad I found you and this episode you put out. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. Happy to help. And we talked for a couple of hours. I'm hoping to interview him more formally, but he's still now just trying to absorb the fact that he's not alone.
Right. They're not. That's what I said. I say that a lot on the show, Preston. These people, the Matrix Minds as a show, I don't own the show. You own it. The audience owns it. Like I said, this is a public broadcast sponsored by and paid for by them. Their platform. All I do is make the pretty screens, right? All you do on your broadcast is like just connect the dots and just provide the platform. So all we do, their stories. That's why we're here, is to share their stories. They're not crazy. They're not cray-cray. Their stories are rare, very real.
Yep. We're all connected. We're all here on Earth. It's a tough school to come down and learn stuff, but I think that's why we're here, and we need to support each other. We need to turn to truth and love and away from fear and the lies.
Agree with you. Totally agree with you, Preston. Now, I've shared throughout the night, buddy. I've shared significantly I have shared your Facebook page here, which you are okay with taking messages and friends, right?
Oh yeah,
all
absolutely.
Right. On Facebook, if anybody, like I said, on the audio only side of things, if you're trying to find Preston, pretty easy to find and get a hold of. Just top search bar, Preston Dennett, Dennett, Preston as with Preston, or just type in there facebook.com Preston.Dennett, and you find him very easy, quite easily. He's not hidden. He's not hidden at all. When it comes to his books, again, Preston, do you your own self have, like, other than Amazon? Because I just tell it pretty much everybody, go search for Preston Dennett. That's it. I'll do an author search, find you, Preston Dennett, Dennett. It's easy. How many books do you got now, Preston? Total. Okay.
30. Yep. But
30?
I'm putting out a couple of more real soon.
Right.
I'm busy.
Yeah, you're definitely busy. Out of curiosity, out of all of the books, out of all of the 30 books that you've written, right? Out of all of the 30, there's got to be one. There's got to be one that was your favorite, right?
Matthew, you're gonna make me choose between my babies, huh?
Yeah, there's got to be one. One of them.
I do have a couple of favorites. I can't choose just one. I do love Symmetry, a true UFO adventure. I think that's just a gripping page turner of a story about Dolly Saffron being a fully conscious contactee.
Mm-hmm.
I love Onboard UFO Encounters. That's one of my best sellers for sure. Gotten a lot of really good feedback from that. I love The Healing Power of UFOs. I think that's an important one because it counteracts the false ET threat narrative. It's not true.
Which one is it?
The Healing Power of UFOs.
That's it. Okay.
I dare you, just read the forward. You can read the whole forward on, Amazon on their preview.
Okay.
And tell me that, this is not good for us, because it clearly is. Those are, I think, some of my favorite, but I love them all. UFOs over Topanga, that was an early book, but that did really well. I thought that was a ripping story.
Okay.
But hard to choose between my babies. I love them all.
I know.
I don't want to hurt any of their feelings.
Really quick, let me ask you before I let you go. For someone, you've heard of the Stephen Greer how to contact ETs stuff, right? You've heard the take a flashlight when you're trying to communicate. What is the significance? I've always wondered this. What the 369 flashing a light into space? Hello. For some reason, the numbers you flash a light 3 times, 6 times, 9 times. Give it a minute. 3, 6, 9. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What is this? What is the significance about that?
I don't think there's a huge significance to it. It's just a way to signify intelligence behind it. I was a charter member of CSETI.
Okay.
In fact, I wrote an article called "Calling All UFOs," which Stephen Greer told me personally. He's like, "Oh my God, that was the article that you wrote for UFO Universe," which prompted me to get moving with CSETI. And he quotes it in his book. He's like, "Here's how you want to contact UFOs. Here's a case from Preston Dennett. Here's another one. These are good examples of how you can use lights to call down UFOs." Ultimately, I think the real tool to it is consciousness. It is telepathy. It's reaching out to them mentally, because they will hear you. Flashlights, I think, are sort of a crutch that helps a little bit, but ultimately they do know who you are, where you are, what you're doing. And if you want to see a UFO, yeah, the CE5 protocols do work. He came to LA, Stephen Greer, and we went out the first night and had a sighting. He was there. We were all there. We saw it. I was hooked at that point. We had a little LA group that we called down UFOs for, periodically. It didn't work every time, obviously.
Right.
But it was a wild time because we had a bunch of really good sightings.
This is absolutely awesome to be with you this evening, Preston. So I appreciate you taking 2 hours of your time to be with us here. And again, I've wanted to talk to you. I know that Angela Stats and some other guests, some other people on the show here, they've wanted to hear you and wanted you to be part of the Matrix as well. So again, thank you for taking this time with me.
Hey, it's been a true honor and a delight. Thanks for having me on, Matthew.
Well, I gotta have you back. Tell me what the book, one of the books that you're working on is what, and when will it be released?
Well, I just put out, Symmetry, so I hope you can tell Ann, because I know she would love to talk to you, and Not From Here, Volume 4. I'm working on Volume 5. I'm working on another book that I hope to put out this year, which I don't really have a working title yet, but it's all about people who've had humanoid encounters and high strangeness, so I'm super excited about that. I've got a lot of stuff in the works. Got a lot of stuff that I really want to put out, and I'm having fun with this.
Good. That's the meat. That's why we're here, right? We're here to have fun.
Out of body experiences. Don't want to forget that. Putting out another OBE book. We didn't really get into that.
Right. We will. You ain't. Right. This ain't your last time being here, my friend. Like I'm saying, if you had fun, I hope you did, because that's why. Good, because that's why we're here. Is to enjoy one another, have fun, share one another's experiences. Yours are different than mine. Mine's different than yours, and just no one experience is identical. That's why, again, what makes us very unique individuals.
Exactly.
Okay, Mr. Preston, I appreciate you for being here. And again, I will definitely get hold of Dolly. She's been in the chat. I see her like posting, but I can't. I'm not gonna. Oh yeah, I love the interview that you did with her. I will hone in on that book, bro. I really will. And again, you're more than welcome. I gotta have you back. Okay.
Very cool. Yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks.
All right, Preston. Take care of yourself. Good night to you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye. Alrighty, Brainiacs, I'm going to let Preston go here, and that would be it. Preston, let's try to find you. I'm going to shut that down. There we go, stop mode. Perfect. Alrighty. Not just me and the Brainiacs here. Oh my God. I loved this 2-hour discussion with him. I really did. It relatively goes quick. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, 2 hours. But then, the specific, whatever your topic is, especially this topic. I love talking about ufology. Absolutely love talking about ufology. And the thing is, it's that topic which it's that nano juju topic. No one is like, shh. Just that little topic that no one wants to talk about. But yet somebody like me or somebody like Preston or Dolly, like, again, somebody's got a story. Somebody's seen something. I was told the other day, until we actually ask our parents what they seen, and our grandparents, they probably got stories to share that they have never shared. Who knows? But UFOs, man, unidentified flying objects, they're not going anywhere. In fact, they're making themselves very well present this very day. As you heard me say, I can't wait till they land on the White House lawn, Preston. Well, they already did. That's what he said back in 57, right? Hey, man, you can't. The Internet of Things, they're all over the place, and you hear it and see it in all countries. They're known. They're here. I like Preston's main modality of contact. Consciously put forth a conscious effort. I don't know. The lights, crutch, use them both. If you really, really, really want to see, you got to believe to see. Believe, see. So with that being said, Brainiacs, Mr. Preston Dennett, again, his method of contacts are all throughout the description of the show. Check him out on Amazon. Excellent author. Check him out on YouTube. Excellent interviewer. Check him out on Facebook. Facebook.com, Preston.Dennett. That'll put you in touch with our guest tonight. Everybody, take care of yourselves as well as everybody else. Don't forget, my friends, question everything exclusive to the reality around you. Enjoy your weekend. Monday, I'll talk to you guys same time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Pacific Time. You guys crank it up on your way out of here. Matthew Turner with the Matrix Minds. Good night, everybody. We're out of here. Yeah, man. Good night. Yeah. Let's do this. One of the fastest growing talk shows on the internet. Your show. Welcome aboard the Matrix Minds. One of the most controversial conspiratorial shows on the internet. The Matrix Minds. And that's right. Buckle up, everybody. Let's go. Paranormal, huh? Conspiracy, huh? Ufology, hidden Egyptology, and anything and everything we can get our hands on. Let's go. Welcome aboard. The Matrix Minds. The Matrix Minds. Sure.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth. Stay in Wonderland. All All I'm offering is the truth. Stay in Wonderland. All I'm offering is the truth.
What is up, all my beautiful and gorgeous souls? I am Michelle Espinosa, otherwise known as the Shaman, through the Matrix Mind Media. So tell me, how many times have you wished that you had that special power of prediction? You know, to know what was going to happen before it actually happened and took place. To have some power and control over that situation before things came flying at you out of left field. The thing is, you actually can have that power. You can be aware of what's coming. Tune in to Astrology TV with me for Breaking the Cage every Sunday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Matrix Mind Media. And I will go through the astrology and help put you on the right course and get you back in control of your own life. Love you guys.
This CBD fluid is a whole flower fluid extracted from the cannabis flower. We don't use any heat, butane, or chemicals when we extract, so we get all of the components of the plant. All the CBD, CBG, CBA, all the terpenes, all the flavonoids. This allows our body to absorb at 60 to 90% rather than the average of 6 to 10% absorption you would get with a CBD oil. Because our bodies are made up of mostly water and this is a fluid, it's highly absorbable so that you're getting 500% more nutraceuticals per dose. We also have this available in our CBD spray as well as a muscle rub with all kinds of botanicals. You're going to absolutely love it.
Check it out, Brainiacs. MatrixMinds.live/CBD. The CBD I use. Feel free again. Feel alive again. What do you think, Brainiacs? You guys, now do you think you're crazy? You ain't crazy, Brainiac. I promise you, you ain't crazy. There's somebody in this world just like you and just like myself. That's right. We ain't crazy. In fact, we're unique. We are definitely unique. And you ain't alone, Brain. When you get the power of that masculine energy combined with that feminine aspect of who you are as a woman, you're designed by a special source, without a doubt. And it is nothing but raw power whenever conjoined. When you come together and bring that femininity with that masculinity, it is unstoppable, unstoppable, Brainiac. Without a doubt. That is the power that is unstoppable. You're unshakable. You're here to have fun, Brain. No doubt about it. Don't forget to have fun. Share your reality. Share your experiences with everybody else. Create your world. Just like a potter molding clay, Brainiac. Don't be afraid to play with the clay. I love you guys. Peace out. One more time, Brain. Good night to you. Be safe.